What's up, everybody? Welcome to Solana Weekly. This is your host, Thomas, and I want to thank you for joining in. Let's take a dive into the latest trends, use cases, and people behind the incredible growth of the Solana ecosystem. None of this is financial advice, but I'm hoping that all of this is alpha. Now let's get to the show. We've got Joshua back. He's here from Solayer, and they've got a ton of new announcements that have come out since the last time on the pod. So I'm excited to hear about all of them. I'm excited to dig into it. And welcome back to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing good, doing good. I think things have been really bad, like really hectic recently. But things are a bit more calm right now. Things
Yeah.
are stabilizing, but of course we are still building very heavily, almost at the same pace as what we're building for. So yeah, I guess happy to answer any questions. Yeah, we can dive in.
Yeah. So I guess from the last time that we spoke, like to go over like what's come out, right? So you guys launched the token already, and then it looks like you're launching an entirely new L1 called InfiniSVM. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of moving parts, shipping very aggressively.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I'm happy to go into either of those. I mean, obviously the token came out. We kind of knew that that was going to be coming out, and it seems like that was successful. But it's like, all right, you guys decided to just take what Solana was doing and just like 100x the speed, right? Like I think that you guys must have seen like, all right, there's a way that we can build a little bit better system, and then just took it to the extreme. So let's just start talking right about it. And am I pronouncing that right? Infinite SVM?
yeah, so it's like InfiniSVM.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking of maybe there's a better way to call it so people like it's not as clumsy, but I like InfiniSVM because it kind of like shows how we're using a bunch of technologies. It's infinitely scalable. And we're using InfiniBand technology as well from NVIDIA to kind of connect all of our networking on the networking side. So yeah, I think from I guess that's the name, but diving a bit deeper into what we're building. So we started on restaking, right? We started with restaking on Solana, but I think the core thesis has always been the same of how do you scale or horizontally scale Solana. And our initial kind of hack at it was, hey, can we use stake weight quality of service? Can we allocate block space in a more efficient manner? And then we're using restaking to solve these scalability issues
Yeah.
rather than we're doing restaking for restaking sake. Um, so that was where we started off. Then we launched our stablecoin, and then we launched our token as well. And I guess the next part is actually we're going to be launching. This is something that we promised a bit on during our community sale, but we'll be launching a debit card.
Yeah.
And the debit card will allow you to spend your crypto directly in the real world. So if you want to buy stuff, you have it. And there are also different ways this will play with our other product lines in the future. So definitely stay tuned for that. So a bit more on InfiniSVM. It is there wasn't really a classification for it yet, but we are creating a category for it called hardware accelerated blockchains. And we are the first. The thesis is that, hey, we have been trying software scaling for crypto for the past 4 or 5 years, right? And we've been doing layer twos, we have been doing all these things, and that has dramatically increased. Like, I mean, look at Solana is a leap forward in software scaling, right? We're doing a lot of distributed computing, things like that. But we do think that that's going to come to an end sooner or later if we don't change the hardware. Because there's a limited amount of things that you can do on the software level. Similar to how AI, when the AI space kind of like kicked off, NVIDIA went in hard on like hardware, right? They made chips, they made specialized hardware, they wrote code infamously. And I think that is probably going to be the next kind of leap forward for crypto. We're going to need, if we're going to increase bandwidth, we're going to reduce latency to kind of go down to the hardware. And that's what our engineering team is doing. We're programming the chips like down to P4 code. We're networking, we're optimizing the entire networking stack. We are rearranging consensus to make sure that, hey, can we enable what is more like a real-time experience? A lot of times right now, if you send a transaction out into the blockchain, you click a buy, sell, whatnot, it actually sends it out from like your wallet, right? And then it hits blockchain. but you don't know if that transaction dropped or whether it was like successful. And you have to kind of like ask it maybe 1 second later. Ask it, hey, gonna keep asking until Solana until the block hash kind of expires, and then I know if it try again. InfiniSVM would enable an experience which is a lot more similar to, hey, can I resolve that even within the same call? I set it up, it comes back immediately, and I'm done. And we're using a bunch of technologies optimizing the hardware level. If you think of FireDancer, and we're also using some of the technologies that FireDancer does, but we're using it across the entire stack. So we use things like RDMA, InfiniBand, some SDN as well. Our engineers are working heavy on that side. And all of these technologies come together to push 1 million transactions per second. I don't think there are any chains out there that can do that in production at the moment.
Wait, that's so with all of those, you're getting 1 million transactions per second. Is that right?
We're in our internal DevNet right now. And some of the numbers look really good. We're pushing about 500K TPS right now on our internal DevNet. And we're looking to push 1 million. So we are going to clear out some of the bottlenecks that we found. And once we maybe hit 1 million or close to 1 million, we'll go into our public testnet.
Wow.
But yeah, that's the I guess quick update on the InfiniSVM side. Happy to dive into what kind of hardware acceleration we're kind of doing. But you can think of it as anything from like the networking side to the even offloading, like processing off of the CPU. So things like high frequency trading techniques that you can minimize the cache, we would do it. Anything that can kind of reduce the latency within it.
Yeah. So it's almost like you guys found that with software, there's going to be a limit, right? So we're eventually going to hit that threshold with, all right, this is the most that we'll be able to get out of optimizing our software. And that's kind of always been like Solana's thing is like, hey, we're going to optimize this and make it as faster. And even actually on the hardware side, Solana was criticized early on because it was expensive to run a node, right? So the actual cost of the hardware was way more expensive than ETH or Bitcoin was. So they always said like, hey, it's going to be way more centralized because of the cost of the hardware. But if we're going to be hitting the upper bounds of the software scaling, we need to scale that hardware, right? So you guys are recognizing that early and taking the next step to say like, hey, we're going to build out that hardware. Or are you building out the hardware? Is it just integrating better with, better hardware that's like specialized for this use case? Or what does that look like?
So we're starting first with using a lot of technology that is from the AI space. Use InfiniBand, a lot of things that people use for distributed AI trading. Technologies are actually very similar. Because you are trying to operate a distributed system at scale across the world, right? And you are trying to minimize latency. Some of the other things that we might need to use like dark fiber to connect like data centers, things like that. But we can get into that down the road. In terms of hardware, a lot of it has been, the technology is available. It's just that in terms of the blockchain space, we have been trying to focus on like, hey, how do we run this on commercial hardware? And that's great. But if you're looking for the kind of performance that we're looking at, you have to take that lead. And run it on much higher grade hardware.
That makes sense to me. Like logically, like that would be the next step. So is that like with that, is that like a data center is running each one of these nodes, or what kind of operation like would you need to have to actually like run a validator in that sense?
Yep. So a bit of background on like how we're operating, like how we're planning on the consensus is that we're calling it mega leader schedule, or in this sense more familiar to what people call like a sequencer and with a checker nodes. So the sequencer would basically sequence all the transactions, and we would have checker nodes that everyone can run, and it would do some statistical sampling to see, hey, which parts, like it would sample different parts of the chain to say, hey, is this secure? And then is this, and it will help to validate the chain. But a lot of the heavy lifting comes in from the sequencer or like the mega leader, similar to kind of the Solana leader schedule. And that mega leader actually helps because it does sequencing. It's going to help mitigate any MU. So that's also going to help with the end user experience. They don't have to be worried about being sandwiched, right? And this was also a big concern for onboarding institutions, enterprises, and even your retail users, because no one likes being sandwiched. And if we can prevent that, that's a win in my book.
Definitely. A win in my book too. I've gotten sandwiched a couple of times and it just sucks. There's just no reason for it. There's no way that anybody would like that, right? Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So as far as user experience, like how are people going to be interacting with this? Is this going to be like, this isn't a network extension. This isn't an L2. This is actually like its own L1. Is that right?
Yep. We will operate like an L1, but we also have very, very close integrations across the board. So we would have native dApps that would live on InfiniSVM alone, that you can find anywhere else. And these are things that are very much unique to kind of throughput that we can provide. Otherwise, it's not feasible to deploy on any other chain. So that is where we're looking at different kinds of markets, either real assets, AI agents, high frequency trading, DeFi, consumer. If you want to bring the Netflix or you want to bring Spotify on chain, you better need a million transactions per second.
Yeah.
That's a heavy load to lift. Yeah. And I would say that some of these dApps are going to be, as anything needs time, those apps will be there. At the same time, we are putting a lot of effort into the integrations part to make it as easy as it is to integrate. So we might even come up with an SDK that, hey, any app that is compatible, SVM compatible, that deploys Solana, you can have like even just a front-end integration where if you need to, and if congestion hits hard on Solana and like dApps need like an escape button, you hit that emergency button, they start offloading transactions over to InfiniSVM. And then when they want to and things are kind of calm down, then it can release that button. Or if they want to just do it based on the user's profile or something, switch different chains, we'll limit all of that. And so it's going to be a very experience completely abstracted away from the user. So it's as simple as just, I'm using a dApp that I like, no changes. It's just maybe even better because it's a lot faster, lower confirmation times.
Almost like switching like an RPC provider. Like if one's busy, you can switch to another. Like one of the options would be like to switch to your chain and actually just use that.
Yep. And then we are going to be working across the board to make sure that there's almost minimal liquidity fragmentation. And it's you can use our high throughput without being too worried about what the liquidity is going to look like.
Oh, that sounds good. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like the current like forefront of like where you really need like high transaction throughput and where you need like good liquidities, like that's coming up to like perp dexes, right? Like Hyperliquid came out and they were much faster, not quite as decentralized as Solana, but they came out with a fantastic perps dex that found product market fit, and they seem to have been doing really well, and they are leading that space right now. We're seeing Solana teams kind of catching up, finding different ways to beat the bottlenecks, to match, like what users really wanted there. So I guess that's like the use case, I guess, that could be used on your platform. But you brought up a bunch of other use cases, like bringing Netflix on chain. Like, I don't even know what that would look like. Like what are we going to see? Cause there's like the use cases, once that's all opened up and we don't even have to like worry about transactions or anything getting bounced back. Like there's going to be like a whole new world opened up, right?
Yeah. I think, we have tried to build social on chain. We have tried to build all of these like applications on chain, and the experience surrounding that has always been fairly clumsy. And the onboarding is we try our best, but it's slow, right? We have seen so many efforts over the past couple of years. Even if we're thinking about e-commerce, my background, I did a lot of e-commerce back in the day. And if we try to use any blockchain system, like every second counts in e-commerce. 1 second of a delay can make can people abandon their cart? People drop from your site. They think it's a scam. They think their order went through, it didn't go through, and then they leave, right? Every second constantly comes. And if you are looking at blockchain confirmation times up in the minutes, there's no way that's going to fly. No one's going to leave their browser tab open. And even if you click you click the buy button, and that takes some time, even if it's a 3-second kind of load, we'll get impatient. Because that's not just on your desktops, it's also on like your phones, right? It's on your mobile phone. And if you are scrolling through Instagram, you buy something and then it takes 3 seconds, you're like, it's not worth it. I'm reconsidering my pricing, and I'm going to close it out.
Yeah.
So can you take all of these experiences and make it 10 times faster? Because if we're doing like 3 seconds, 4 seconds on even the fastest chains that we have right now, that's still not going to cut it. I mean, even in the traditional space, you want the button click to be, I click and it goes through, it's done. So these are some of the use cases, like maybe someone might build a Shopify on InfiniSVM. Maybe Shopify might integrate InfiniSVM, I don't know. Or maybe like if someone wants to do, like I think there was someone did do a analysis, like someone posted about how many read and writes Netflix did during I think like last year, and it goes up in the millions. And if we can't write and read as fast as that, I think we'll have a hard time kind of competing with Web2. And I think crypto and Web3 is actually a tiny, tiny, tiny part of the world right now.
Yeah.
And if we want to hit the 99% of other people out there, the 99% of use cases out there that are not available right now, you have to do the same, or at least meet the same benchmarks that commercial tags have been out there, and even go above and beyond. And say, can we even do it? Can we do it cheap? Can we do it faster? If can we process payments faster than PayPal, Stripe, any card network out there, and we do it fraction of cost. Same confirmation time, same experience. I go buy a latte and I do have to wait like 5 seconds for a thing to confirm, right? Can we handle refunds? Can we handle KYC? Things like that. All these like little questions that we can build around, of course. But the fundamental thing is that can the thing go fast enough?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, right? Like we don't think about how small like crypto and Web3 really are in general. And it's not going to take like an incremental improvement in the current system to like appeal to the masses, right? Like it's going to take that 10, that 100x improvement. And that's what you guys are going for, right?
Yeah, we are definitely going for the 100 times or even 1,000 times improvement. I think Monad, they're advertising like 100,000 TPS. And yeah, we'll do. Oh no, Monad's at 10,000 TPS. 10,000. So we're gonna go for 1,000 times faster than that on day one. I think Solana at its peak. Right now we're doing around 7,000 TPS, and it's already pretty great of an experience for users. Next question is, can we do that like 100 times, 1,000 times faster? And I think that is what will unlock like the next like wave of like applications, wave of users, wave of I mean, we look back in the day, people were trying to buy NFTs, and then they were you need to pay like $200-$300 gas bill to buy an NFT, right? So I think these frictions will all get eroded away, and the user experience is going to be so smooth that companies wouldn't mind paying the gas fee for users, because it's going to be a fraction of a cent. And it becomes even cheaper than their own updating their own like payment systems and stuff like that, because they're middlemen and other things to pay for.
Yeah. So would the gas prices kind of be similar to Solana, or how is that structured? How do you guys think about paying gas? And it actually, I guess is the gas token going to be Layer? Is that going to be the main token that you guys use, or what's that going to be?
So I would have to leave this to a future update. Because of there's specific things that we're rolling out that would be I guess the news will come in together with that. But for when it comes to gas costs, we are definitely gonna make it as much cheaper. Mainly because if you're doing 1 million transactions per second and the gas fees is like even a cent, that
That's a
comes
lot of
up to
money.
a huge bill, right?
Yeah.
And say someone's trying to run a GPU network and then they do 1,000 transactions per second, like to kind of like reach up to all of their servers, do like a heartbeat. If it's 10 cents per transaction or like even a cent a transaction, and you're doing 1,000 of those, you start burning cash real quick. So
Yeah.
we need to make sure that the gas fees are low. But at the same time to also incentivize. I think part of the beauty is also that, hey, if you are running heavy hardware, it can also be run very cheap. Because you don't have to pay for 30 validators to run this heavy kind of validator, right? We're doing a sequencer and a checker model. The checker nodes aren't that expensive to run. And the main kind of like sequencer nodes, those could be run for a lot cheaper because you're running fewer of those, right? I mean, it's gonna help with you can save the state, you can have trackers that kind of save that as well. But eventually we would think that we'll be able to, there's a balance between how cheap we can make the chain and how fast it is. And then what's the end user experience if it actually makes it a lot more accessible for other kinds of use cases.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess you're with that many transactions per second, you're going to be wanting people to use the chain for everything. So you want it to be really cheap. Like the goal is like, hey, bring it on chain. We can handle it all and test it out and see what you can do. Cause that's, I mean, I feel like the bandwidth is insane at that level, right? Like bring everything on chain and see what we can do. Right.
Yeah, 100%. And on the topic of bandwidth, I think bandwidth has become a problem for a lot of different ways blockchain is being structured right now.
Uh-huh.
I think like the highest we've seen is like maybe a gigabyte per second that we've ever seen in blockchain. And if you have like, even if you take like a 40 kilobytes, 50 kilobytes per transaction, it doesn't amount to much about how many transactions you can actually push. And that's just on the networking side. There is not, if your network bandwidth can't even handle that many transactions, that's your bottleneck.
Yeah.
So for us, because we're using some I guess more newer technologies, we're gonna push 100 gigabytes per second. So same thing.
Oh, really?
We're gonna push
100 gigabytes per second.
Yes, 100 gigabytes per second. That is, so everything we're going for from the network capacity throughput all the way to number of transaction input, which is more like the end result of it. We're all looking for, hey, can we to make this quantum leap forward of, hey, incremental improvements can happen after we make this quantum leap forward first, right? So on the topic of bandwidth, that is something that is definitely on top of mind for us, which is all.
Yeah. That's insane. Okay. So how do you get that to the users, right? So, okay. So if you have 100 gigabits, that much data per second is able to be transferred. Like my personal bandwidth, it's half, like, I don't even know what it is. It's like half a gigabyte. And it's fast for like local residential, but am I able to, I guess I don't need all of that, right? Just like my small transaction goes into that and then you guys process that super quickly. Is that the way that works? Or
yep. So the amount of data that your transaction is going to have is not going to be too much, right? We are expanding so our Solana like transactions have a maximum size. We're going to expand that so that people can do more complex like multi-stage kind of like transactions on DeFi where they call like a bunch of different contracts and then they press all that is a transaction. So it used to be the case that something like that would fail because it just runs out of space. But we're going to expand it so they can do all of this as well, and the higher bandwidth helps with it. But in terms of your end user experience, you're only sending like a tiny amount of data, then it's just it can handle much higher throughput. And I don't know if someone's ever gonna try to bring like Zoom or something on chain, but if you're all gonna be hopping on the call, maybe they might need some bandwidth. I don't know, but I don't think that's the right use case. But I think it's a nice parallel of, hey, if all of us in the world hop on a synchronized like Zoom call, what's the kind of bandwidth that's gonna be needed?
Yeah, and it is an interesting thought experiment, right? Okay, so is this almost like comparable to how AI companies are currently set up? Like when I think about an AI company, like the one that comes to my mind is like XAI with that Elon put together, and he connected 100,000 chips together in one data facility, and they're basically doing all the processing there. So a user opens up Grok, sends in like, "Hey, what's a good breakfast for me today?" or whatever their question is, and then that data gets pushed to their data facility and goes through all their chips. So that would be kind of like how your network is set up. Does that so is it essentially like you guys are kind of taking the model that AI is currently using and is optimizing on the hardware side, and you're just bringing the best of that to crypto? Or how should we think about that? Does that sound right at least? Or
Yep, that's close. That's close. Because when you are training a massive model and you can't do it on a single GPU,
yeah,
you gotta do it from a whole cluster of GPUs. And when you distribute that job right across all of these chips, you want as little latency between them as possible, so that
yeah,
you don't have to wait. It is gonna slow down your training times. In the same way, you can actually imagine this as almost both are distributed systems. Most blockchain, I mean, every blockchain is a distributed system. We have nodes that are separate and we're trying to synchronize state across them. In our case, we're trying to share memory across them to kind of hold the state more, right? Things like that. Ideally, you have all of that connected via some of the best like networking kind of systems possible. But yeah, that's the way I'm thinking about it. It is very close.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it seems like there's been a ton of improvement on that side. NVIDIA obviously is like they've changed the game for how all of that runs. So if we're able to bring over all those advancements to crypto, that seems like a massive game changer for me. So I think that's a cool idea. Sounds good. So, one thing, so you brought up Monad earlier, and, Monad, 10,000 transactions per second, but that's not even what I hear about the most. When I think of Monad, at least lately, what I see is they're pretty focused on community, right? Like a lot of what they're doing is they're trying to get people on Solana, different communities on Solana to, like test out their platforms, test out their apps right now, and get them interested in it, right? So it's almost like they're coming for the community aspect. They have the technology, and I think what gets especially L1s and different chains, very popular is like you have to have the community, right? So what are your thoughts on community, and can you tell me about some of the things that you guys are planning to build that?
Yep, I think on the community side, we have we've had actually a really, really cool community. One of our team members recently started this basement thing that's been going on, and we've been trying to be like, how do you keep all of this like DGen stuff in the basement? Or like lock your engineers in the basement, let them go go hack on stuff. And I think people have been I guess a pretty vibrant community over there. I think one thing about Solayer is that we're very product focused. And we are looking for, I guess, community members that are also product focused. People have been burned by a lot of vaporware, a lot of I guess empty promises out in this space, especially. So we're focusing on people who are like very in tune with like what utility looks like. People who are looking for products that are genuinely useful. That's why I was bringing out a lot of use cases on like AI, on consumer, on these kinds of things. And we want a community that explores these ideas and say, hey, now we have this technology. I don't want to use it to just, I don't know, maybe someone's going to launch 1 billion meme coins. And you know what? That's cool.
Yeah.
I do it on our chain, right?
Yeah.
But I also do want to see the use cases kind of expand beyond that to kind of say, hey, can we do music rights distribution, royalty distribution? Can we look at e-commerce? Can we look at payments, cross-border payments? Can we look at maybe funding more sustainable ways of like public goods funding? Are there areas where we can turn this technology for a force for good and also for a force for actual for use cases. And that's the kind of community that we want to build. People who are hyper aware of this, and also kind of very in tune with the tech. And yet after that, you can be as degenerate as you want, right?
Yeah.
After that, you can go on and be as degenerate as you want. Then all the memes that you want to be, we love those memes. But I think some of the first principles is product led, utility focused, building something that will last and something that has value. But in terms of the community side, I think we will also be launching a DApp on our chain. And that one is, we're looking to kind of drive a lot of attention, a lot of utility to that. And from there, that will also onboard a lot more kind of focus on InfiniSVM, and that will be trickle down impact on all of the other builders in our ecosystem as well. So
Yeah.
we're also looking for as many killer use cases as possible. And from there, you can plug into any of the tools that we have built over time. It all is connected and all value kind of accrues in that sense. On Solayer, we have, ASOL for staking. If you want to use a yield-bearing staking asset in your DeFi app, use ASOL. If you want a yield-bearing stablecoin, if you're trying to do corporate treasuries, you want to do payments in emerging economies, use SUSD. You bring T-bill yield everywhere. People can start earning on their interest, right? If you want debit card access, if you're a consumer debt and you want to use debit card to handle off-chain payments, you want to plug into the traditional financial system, you are a Web 2.5 solution. Use the debit card. It's all available for you. And we'll keep rolling out features like that to make it as easy to build anything that would solve a real problem. I think that's the main thing. And we'll build all of that tooling. We'll integrate with advertising people would need to, so that all of our builders would have the resources and the tools that they need to excel.
Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I don't even know where I would start if I was building a whole new L1, right? Like there's a lot of figuring out like who is going to be your user. And obviously, I guess before you even get the users, you want the products to be there, right? So you need the builders, you need to make sure that it's something that, builders want to build on. And I feel like that's always been a bottleneck, is dealing with congestion, dealing with, latency issues. And, like you said, if you're clicking a buy button, you want that transaction to go through right away. Like I'll find myself, like, especially on my phone, like if I hit a button and it doesn't go right through right away, I'm hitting it again, and then I'm canceling it out. Right. Like that's just like human nature. So, to build something that is going to, directly affect that, I think that's huge. So it's exciting.
Yep. And I think one way to think about it is also, hey, Venmo, PayPal, everyone has been saying, oh, why would I use crypto if I could use Venmo? It's free. It's not free for Venmo.
Yeah.
Venmo has their own server costs. They have their own business models to kind of sustain that. To go with something like InfiniSVM, can I make our transactions even cheaper than Venmo's internal transactions? And then that opens up a whole new use case of, can we do peer-to-peer directly? And it's going to be so cheap that maybe someone like Venmo, or maybe there will be an on-chain Venmo, would be interested in, hey, I would sponsor that gas cost, and I wouldn't even need to run my own service. Right? I just run like a front end back end. The blockchain handles all of that. And if you do rollbacks, any kind of like refunds, things like that, I can program that into the smart contract. And then that's all completely auditable. You can see all of that. Things like that. Questions, I guess this is what was a lot of my.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I mean, you see that PayPal, they launched their stablecoin on Solana. Well, they launched it in ETH too, and other chains, but they know what's coming, right? Like they see the writing on the wall. So they're like experimenting, they're seeing what they can do. And, whether that's a solution for them or not. And they incentivized a lot of money to, when they expanded to Solana, right? I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something over $10 million just for using their coin or for providing liquidity. So, I mean, they know what's coming, and, to have the solution where they won't have to run their servers anymore, that would be huge, right? Like that's not cheap for them to run that, right?
Yep. And also I think distribution, and I think that the cost comes in a lot with the banking side. where they have to kind of maintain balances everywhere, and it's kind of there's a lot of liquidity costs on the front as well. And that's what stablecoins are supposed to solve. And PayPal has been using PYUSD as well. And the issue is distribution. And I think a lot of companies are also kind of becoming a lot more aware of, hey, crypto is good at one thing very well, which is network effects. If you can bootstrap entire networks so fast, and if you want to have these kind of network effects kind of kick in, the speed needs to be there. The cost needs to be low, so that these network effects can actually kind of take place. And we did see it a bit with whatever we're seeing right now on chain, but I think we're going to see 100,000x from here. So the network effects will be great. And if PayPal spends in like 10, 20 mil to kind of push up PYUSD, there has to be cheaper ways to do it. I mean, instead of just incentivizing a pool, there has to be a cheaper way to do it. I think building a specific product features that allows for these kind of maybe referral loops, maybe something else, right? That might help save them more money in the long term, both on getting their stablecoin or getting their product out to market, but also in terms of like their own internal operations, like managing all the accounts, all the additional stuff overhead that comes in.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at like crypto in general, right? I feel like the last few years, like other than like meme coins and NFTs, like Solana has kind of dominated a lot of that area, right? Where companies have been coming to it and saying like, hey, we can actually use this now. This is starting to make sense. So it's like, that's kind of how Solana was able to take a lot of that mind share, was like, hey, like you don't have to worry about what L2 you're working on. You don't have to worry about Ethereum gas fees. Come to Solana, it's fast. And that resonated with a lot of those companies that are building real products on Solana. So to see, you guys are like, hey, like we've got that, but 1000x faster, come check this out. Like that I would assume that would resonate with a lot of those companies pretty well, right?
Yeah. And I think part of how Solana won, or like is winning in this, I mean, every day you see more and more like statistics that show that how much is being bridged over to Solana, and the numbers are staggering. I think in the long run, economics matters. If you can do it faster, cheaper, entire countries have risen and fallen from economics, right? You could have like a authoritarian regime, but the economics will slow the entire thing down. You look at the Roman Empire, it has been in human history. So I believe that if we unlock the next level of, I guess, the next window for the economics to make sense, I think it opens up too many use cases that if someone doesn't build this specific use case, and another person sees it, they're going to go for it, and they're going to have a hard economic and technological advantage. So it's going to be a race. It's going to be a race of who can build the most interesting thing fast and dominate that space and get all the network effects before another person else builds it. So, I think we saw that on Solana. I think on InfiniSVM, you're also going to see that as well.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, when you think about Solana, it runs at, I think like 4,000 transactions per second normally, or 3,000, but we haven't really seen like an Ethereum L2, like really match that yet, and a lot of them are more centralized. I always kind of thought that like some, like Arbitrum or something would start taking over, or would pick up a lot. I mean, we're seeing Base as kind of the biggest L2, on ETH. So it's almost like, I don't know, they're kind of like left behind, or like the market's almost moved on, right? Like you're saying, the flows, you're seeing all those flows from ETH to Solana. It's hundreds of millions of dollars sometimes a day, or a month or a week. Like it's significant amounts of money. So, I mean, to go for the faster chain makes so much sense in my mind, right? Like why, I don't know why any chain hasn't been focusing on that up till now, right?
Yeah, I think, a lot of L2s, I feel like they have a lot of TVL, and a lot of that is because of there has been a lot of money on ETH for a very long time. But the economics does come through. If you look at the Solana dApp revenue compared to Ethereum dApp revenue, it's not even a competition. Solana dApps make money. And that means they can keep iterating, they can keep promoting. They are sustainable companies. They are here for long, but they can take in as much as they want. Right? They never have to raise another round of money because they are already pulling 10, 20, 30, 100 mil.
Yeah.
And I think that's a healthy sign for this, because it becomes very hard to take fees. It becomes very hard to generate revenue when all your effort is trying to is working around infrastructure to make it work. It's too much overhead, and then the user experience is not great. People don't use it as much. They maybe use it once in a while. You don't want that as a consumer app, as a kind of as a proper application. You want people, even if you're B2B, you want people to keep coming back, keep using it more.
That's like the entire philosophy of Web 2 is, hey, use our platform, clicks, like as many clicks as you can on our website. We want you to be using it as much as possible, where, historically Web 3 has kind of been like, you can use us kind of,
or like I LP once and then I'm never going to look at it again. You don't really want that, right? You want someone that comes in and they're always using the product. And then that's how I think something Solana is cheap, is fast, is easy to use. You don't have to approve token transactions, things like that. It makes it so much easier that people are like, I'm just going to do it because I can. And then whenever the pop-up comes up, it's like fraction of a cent, whatever, let me approve it. And then for I think some of the things that we're working on is, can we make it even faster? Can we pre-approve transactions, things like that? Make it even like a completely Web 2 experience. I think there's a lot of research, a lot of effort that people have spent for the past 10 years to optimize UI UX to where it is right now in the Web 2 space. We should learn a lot from it. Whether it's security, whether it's user experience, there's so much work that has been done. I don't think we should just like throw it out just because we're Web 3. These are just human psychology things that we should definitely be aware of. So building that and having infrastructure that can enable these experiences, I think that's something that we need to build.
I 100% agree. And I keep bringing up like Solana as an example of this, but Solana's had the best UI and user experience in crypto yet, right? Like we're getting like Swee's getting there with like some of their new stuff. Like a lot of that feels good, but nothing felt as good as like using the Phantom wallet for the first time. Like that was like a game-changing experience, right? Like a transaction just went through instantly, and there was like, it didn't cost anything like that I had never felt anything up until that point. So in my mind, that was a complete game changer. Where, I would imagine that, of the total crypto users right now versus the total population, like that we need the other 95% of the world to have that experience too. And maybe, because I had experience with MetaMask and ETH before, it's like, maybe that was just like something that was 2x better, or, 5x better, or whatever that is. And the 100x better than that experience is what you guys are going to be able to provide. And that's going to be what gets people to come back, or something along those lines. Right.
Yeah. I mean, if we are comparing against Ethereum mainnet, Ethereum mainnet has a different priority. Definitely not, or scalability. That's what they leave to the L2s. But if they're doing like double digits TPS, we're going to push like a few 100x, a few 100,000x on that. So the experience is not even there's not even a comparison. I think when it comes out, I don't even know what people are going to build. And I think that's good. But
it's exciting. It's kind of like give somebody, it's kind of what people have been asking, like what a lot of builders and people in the space have been asking for a while. So it'd be interesting. Like, all right, here you go. Check it out. What are you going to build now? Nobody ever builds exactly what you want to. Like, I feel like Solana's always like grown and gotten better through like NFT mints, or through like meme coin congestion. So, we'll see what it is on this, but I feel like that's kind of how it always goes, right?
Yep. I think it's similar. I mean, when humanity found fire, we were like, oh, what are we going to do next? And then now it's like, okay, now you have 1 million TPS. What are you going to do next?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, so one thing you brought up TVL earlier, and it just kind of reminds me of like how bad of a measurement that actually is, right? Like Ethereum money, like they've got a lot of money locked up, but it's just sitting in protocols not being used, where it's like in Solana, what they call it, like the velocity of money, or just like the amount of money that actually gets used and transactions go through. It's like the throughput is, completely different from Ethereum. But if you look at just the TVL numbers, like TVL's higher on ETH, right?
Yep.
It's not,
I
it's not
think
like a useful.
one big thing about money is that it has to move. So
Yeah.
the more, I mean, that's the whole point. The more money moves, the more opportunities there are to make money as well. Which is why you generally see that, hey, yield is also higher. I mean, yeah, if this, you need an economy that's burgeoning if you want your yields to be higher. So I think money is sensitive to yield. And if there's a lot higher yield on one chain than another, there are frictions, of course, people moving money.
Yeah.
But like I said, economic wins in the longer term. If you have like an engine that's pushing so many transactions and the yield is great, people are gonna move money to tap into that yield. Because otherwise someone else will, and then it would dilute it out in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when you guys first announced this and you announced like what you guys were going for, was it 16 billion transactions per second? That is what was that, like the theoretical throughput or something? Or was that a joke that I caught on? I remember hearing that and was like, what? I was like, 16 billion? That's insane. I don't know where that came from.
So the 16 billion TPS number,
Yeah.
did that happen? Yes, that did happen.
It did happen.
Was the environment. So what I think what they did, I wasn't involved with the technical details, but from what I saw is that they're doing a test drive saying if there are no conflicting transactions. So if these transactions don't overlap in state, so that you can parallelize them, you can kind of like schedule them out and do a sequence, like make it 10 times, 100 times, 1 times faster. And if we all write that at once, like is it possible? What are the bottlenecks? Right? They did it and they pulled 16 billion TPS. Is this going to happen in the real chain? Absolutely not. They're just DeFi, like you could do like 1 billion transfers. Right? That's not the same as doing like a complex DeFi, like LP position. That's going to be a heavier transaction, of course. But I'm optimistic if you can do 16 billion transactions per second with non-conflicting states and a very controlled environment. Still a huge number.
I mean, that's like a feat. That's like, there's probably never been a number close to that, right? Like, I don't know what the previous maximum was, but that's got to be some sort of world record, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, would be cool if I see another chain try to do just transfers non-conflicting and also push 16 billion.
Yeah.
They might do it like just put it like a database like Postgres or something, and they try to write to it. But I'm not sure how fast you can do it if you're borrowing like a VM and you just dump it into like a local database. Might not even push it 16 billion. So I don't know. We'll see. But it's like more of a fun metric that came up.
Yeah.
But it did kind of show that, hey, we are on the right track, right? We unlocked something here. Let's go push it even more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So with that, like, are you guys going to continue restaking on Solana? Are you going to kind of continue everything that you've been doing on Solana? Or are you just moving everything over? Or what's the plan there?
So we are still doing staking and restaking on Solana. I think our validator is pushing some higher yield on because we took a lot of the learnings that we did from the hardware accelerated side to make sure that our validator client and our validator is optimized both on the hardware and the software level. We're experimenting with different kinds of clients as well to make sure that, hey, what's the best yield we can return to users, right? Because that's also going to form some of the fundamentals and sound foundations for whenever we do launch InfiniSVM, can we provide sole yield on InfiniSVM? I think that's very important. So we'll still do staking and restaking on Solana, and our thesis still stands that, hey, we're here to accelerate transactions on Solana. If you're a builder and you want to send transactions our way, we'll use stake weight quality or service and we'll accelerate how we land these transactions. if you're a
Yeah.
user and you want to earn higher yield, we'll do that as well. In terms of restaking in the traditional sense, so less on stake portfolio service, but more on like economic security, we might maybe use some of the economic security we have on the restaking protocol to power the L1. But
Okay.
that's something that we're still playing around with the idea. Haven't really built too much around that yet.
Yeah.
But I think restaking is if we bring in restaking, it has to make sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it like just because like restaking is restaking. I think different teams have different kind of advantages surrounding restaking, and if our focus is on high throughput, like acceleration, that's what we'll do, and that's what our restaking is also going to mean. We're going to do it in a way that does it to help it along, and if it doesn't help it along, then we'll keep it separate. But yeah, I think that's something that is that opportunity here. Oh, 100%. Let's go dive in. Right. I think that there could be some interesting things that we could do here. Yeah, and it could also help with I guess like supplementing some of the features that, but yeah, I mean, happy to explore some of these ideas as well. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess nothing's kind of finalized yet, right? Yeah. You never really know exactly what you're going to end up doing, but as you guys are building some cool stuff though. All right. So what's kind of like the downsides of this? Like what's some of the FUD that you guys have heard? Like, are people calling it more centralized because there are higher costs for the hardware, or I guess, do you want to talk a little bit about, what that cost is going to be, or how many nodes you're going to have set up or validators set up, or what is that going to look like?
Yeah, I think in terms of cost and like setting up this dedicated hardware, the way we think about it is not exactly surrounding like, oh, it's going to cost a lot, oh, decentralization is going to be less, but more along the lines of, hey, what's the experience like in like traditional computing? You have one instance, and sure, that's great, but if you need to scale that, I go to Google Cloud, I go to AWS, I just drag a slider, and I have
Yeah.
I expand my compute, right? I don't think that's possible in crypto right now, mainly because everything's a distributed system as one state machine. You can't just copy. I mean, we try to do that with L2s and whatnot, but you fragment liquidity is all the other
Yeah.
problems that come up with it. The way we are thinking about it is, hey, we have a sequencer and it acts like a mega leader. Can I just add in a ton of like, if I want to, I just add more sequencers, add more hardware. And then can that scale it past 1 million, 2 million, 2 million, and then TPS, right? Is that possible? And if we can do that, like, I think that opens beyond what can you do with 1 million TPS. It's like, what can you do with infinite?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to pay more. You're gonna have to pay more. It's gonna cost more. But if you do need that, but you better be making enough money to kind of cover that cost as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kind of experience that we're looking at. Like, hey, you could in fact, I think it's a positive feedback loop of, hey, the more usage that you get, the more decentralized you become, because people have the cash flow, the kind of systems, and you can just flexibly, like, elastically expand your based on your requirements. Yeah, but that's the way I'm thinking about it. Of, hey, do we make it at least with the way the internet is structured, fiber optic cables and stuff like that, can we make it a system that can just elastically expand, and then that also helps with decentralization. But the way we're doing it is that, hey, you want to add more sequences. In terms of centralization and like censorship proof and things like that, the tracker nodes are there. And we're doing it in a statistical way, so you can't fudge the numbers. Someone else will track you and you will get slashed. So that's almost the same kind of security guarantees as Solana.
Wow. Pretty cool. Any commentary from Toli or Raj on what you guys are building out?
I have not seen anything yet. Maybe I'm not too in touch with like CT in general. I know I should be. I should be,
probably
but
better if you're not, actually.
I've seen some weird stuff on CT. I'm like, nope. Let me close this app.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with this right now.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, it's tough because like competition in general, like in startups is pretty high, but competition when it comes to blockchains is like, it's fierce. Like it's pretty extreme, like especially even between like different apps on a chain, like it's pretty intense competition. So if anybody that's coming out with a like really big technical breakthrough, like you guys, like this is something that everybody's going to be coming after. Like, have you guys felt that competition at all, or other people trying to figure out what you're doing, or what's that like?
We have had some folks try to kind of, I mean, the moment we started the hardware accelerated category, we saw quite a few other chains kind of pop up, trying to go after that same pie. I don't
Mhm.
think we compete, and we definitely do not compete with Solana, because like the dApps that we're looking for, the dApps that we're creating we're unlocking use cases that probably would have been too expensive to deploy on
Yeah.
Solana anyways. So we're going for that market instead. Um, I think, would there be competition? Oh, of course, but hardware is hardware.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's gonna take time. It's gonna take a lot of
Yeah.
time to compete on hardware. Um, Partially why like Nvidia has such a um
Yeah.
is is slightly different. The ball game is slightly different. Um, I do think that in terms of like competition between blockchains, very fierce. Of course, there's a lot of culture. There's a lot of people. People basic is, you can treat every blockchain like a country, right?
Yeah.
People have their own identity and they live there, they have their own economies. But the way I think the way that, and everyone on our team thinks about InfiniSVM's ecosystem is that we want it to be as flat as possible. Almost to the point of survival of the fittest. If you have the strongest that, may the strongest that win. And I think that is the healthiest way for an economy to thrive, because it cuts out a lot of the no relationships. I mean, relationships can be formed and be encouraged. So just work together, collaborate. It's almost like Hunger Games, right? You find the people that you vibe with, and then you work together, and then you make it happen. But I want it to be as flat as possible, where everyone has an equal shot, whether you're you're a startup, right? I mean, that's very much we see in the real world right now. If you're an AI startup, you're a healthcare startup, you start from zero, you find the right connections, you go forth. There is no, and if we're gonna build like in the sense what we have, like our core principle is cypherpunk, getting rid of institutions and stuff, we can't repeat the same mistakes and start forming these structures and so like societal kind of insider structures surrounding that as well, right? So no biases, no preferential treatment. You have your tools and go ahead, right?
Yeah. 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 Well, and that's what you want, right? Like I mean, like, I'm excited to just kind of see like where people take this, like what they can build out, like what new use cases are going to be found. Like, I mean, I want to get on there and just kind of like play around with it. It sounds great. I don't know. I don't even know what I'd use it for. Right. So I'm excited to see it come out. And speaking of that, when is everything planning on launching? You guys have a launch date? You said testnet already, right?
So that's our internal testnet.
Internal.
So
Okay. Okay.
sometimes, if you go to like our block explorer, I think a while ago we had the testnet running at around 250k EPS, then 500k EPS. So the explorer is live. You can take a look at it. But once we hit public testnet, that's probably going to come in a few months,
Uh-huh.
probably in Q2. And then mainnet, I can't share too much details, but it wouldn't be too far off that as well.
Sounds good.
So it's a very accelerated timeline, but I think we're making great progress. And integrations, open call at as many people want to integrate, anyone wants to try their hand at a million CPS. Yep, let us know.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to check it out. I want to follow this along. Excited to use it. Excited to watch the progress. I feel like you guys have been kind of at the forefront of a lot of this. So this is exciting. I mean, this has the potential to like completely change, everything that we all thought about crypto, thought about Web3, thought about what blockchains could do. Right. So, to reorient how you can interact with crypto from anyone, from any app, like whether that's crypto specific or even outside of it. I mean, I think that's huge, right? So I'm really excited to see it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I think the day I'll be very happy is, can I go to like, I don't know, can I go to IKEA? Can I go to can I go to like a Shake Shack, and then can I just like pay with InfiniSVM, and it's just so much cheaper and it's faster and it's immediate, and I'm just all right. I don't even know it was run on that, but I kind of know that it's being run on InfiniSVM. I think that's like what you mean. But yeah. That's
That sounds good. Well, I definitely appreciate the time. It was great catching back up. And, as you guys get closer, maybe once you launch the test net, I'd love to have you back on. Maybe you could do like a little demo and show people, so what they can do on the test net. I think that'd be kind of fun, but, I'm excited. I really appreciate the time, and, thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Solana Weekly. Once again, this is Thomas Bahamas, and I have one final ask for you guys. If you could, please subscribe on whatever player you're listening to. You could leave a review. That would be amazing. If you want to shill me your bags, work for them. But yeah, really appreciate it. And as always, this is not financial advice, but I want you guys to accelerate, move forward, and let's get this bag. I'll catch you guys next week.